What's up, Faith family? Jarvis Guy of War Jarvis YT here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, the 2021 multiversal phenomenon that's still regarded by many as the best Marvel movie to come out after Endgame, which I really don't agree with, but that's the consensus among a lot of people. But today we're gonna be defending because I've been seeing the movie get a lot of flack online, and I kind of mentioned this in my Secret Invasion review. It's just people say No Way Home doesn't hold up, and that the film is like a cameo fest, and there's no real depth to it or anything, and it's just a rushed hack job, is really what they're trying to say. And while I do agree that the film is rushed, I don't agree that it doesn't hold up. I think it's still a really good movie, even like a year and a half after the films come out. And I think that's really just a testament to how hard everybody worked that was making the film, because honestly, with some of the like production issues that you heard coming out about the film, like how they weren't even sure that the VFX would be done for the December release date. It's honestly a miracle that No Way Home even came out at all. And I'm glad that we live in a world where it's out and it's the way that it is. But yeah, before I get into like my actual defense of No Way Home, let's talk about some of the negatives that people usually throw at the film. One of which being the writing. Now, I will admit, I will concede that the writing is very weak when you compare it to Homecoming and Far From Home. Although I like Far From Home and I think it's an S tier MCU film, I can admit the writing in that film is somewhat weak. I'll be the first guy to admit that, and No Way Home doesn't really improve much in the writing department. But I can actually forgive the weak writing. I can forgive like the plot contrivances and the literal moments where they point out like plot holes with the movie. I can forgive it because the core conceit of No Way Home is Spider-Man curing the villains. And it works well and it carries the story. I mean, no matter what the villains do, Spider-Man is willing to help them. He's willing to rehabilitate them. And not only does that help develop his character, it also allows us to let us see another side of the villains that we've come to know and love. That was really an awesome way to execute the story, and it stops it from being just a glorified cameo fest, because there's actual emotional stakes and just like general like plot stakes to curing these villains. Because if Spider-Man doesn't cure them, then they all die. I think that's a great concept for a film. Another thing that people rag on the film for is they say the CGI is bad, and yeah, I will concede that the CGI is rough in a couple areas. But again, I can forgive it because they essentially made the film in just over a year. They were like, I think they started shooting it in maybe September of 2020, and they had it out in December of 2021. They literally went from nothing to something with this film. Honestly, I think although there are certain portions of the VFX that are bad, I mean, for one, at least they had an excuse, and two, it's like you can honestly overlook it. With films like Doctor Strange 2 and Thor 4, I don't know, man. It's something about the VFX in that film. It just feels uncanny, sort of unsettling, and I don't think that was really intentional. But with No Way Home, honestly, when the VFX looks bad, things just look empty. And I think the overall criticism, one of the biggest issues that people have with No Way Home, is that they say the film feels like it was cobbled together as soon as possible. But I really don't think that's the fault of the director or the screenwriters. I think that's all on the producers. Because the multiverse aspect of No Way Home was shoehorned into the film after Marvel learned about the Flash using the multiverse concept. And they wanted to capitalize on that trend as soon as possible. They were like, oh, well, we can't let DC get to this first, since they might have a hit on their hands, with the Flash, which, didn't end up working out. And the Flash is only going to end up making maybe, I don't even want to say 10% of what No Way Home eventually made worldwide, but Marvel wanted to get the jump on DC, and No Way Home was their way of doing it. So, I guess they just took whatever plot they had and just shoehorned multiverse into it and said, "Up, there you go. You have to do Spider-Man one more day. You have to do multiverse. You have to bring in the old villains. You have to bring in the new Spider-Man." And I think honestly, with all the demands that they were probably given, I think they did the best with what they could, because this movie combines a lot of things and just turns them into one cohesive product. You're not really thinking about how the film is overstuffed with villains. which I mean that's just an objective fact. It doesn't really feel like the film is overstuffed, but I mean it literally is. It has way too many villains. It's just you're able to look past all that because you can just perceive No Way Home as a good movie for what it is. And everything did technically work out, and No Way Home is a somewhat satisfying conclusion to the Home trilogy, and it acts as a pretty good standalone film. But I definitely think we could have gotten a much better finale for MCU Spider-Man if Marvel weren't so insistent on beating DC to the punch with all this multiverse bullshit. The people are really getting sick and tired of. Just think about how many friggin' multiverse superhero movies we've had. And No Way Home got extremely lucky because they were honestly one of the first superhero movies to actually do the alternate timeline sort of deal, but do it very well. I think really it was Into the Spider-Verse and Days of Future Past to beat them to the punch, but I'm hesitant to include Days of Future Past since you'd have to include Endgame, and I honestly don't think Endgame should really count when we're talking about multiverse. But anyway, moving on. Let's talk about some positives of No Way Home. My first defense for the film is that I think Tom Holland is just overall great as the MCU Spider-Man, and I think he gives his best performance here. He shows a great amount of range, and it really knocked it out of the park. It's just phenomenal what he was able to do with a lot of the sus and poorly thought out dialogue that he was given. It's just he did an excellent job, man. And although the CGI in the film isn't great, like I mentioned, there's some pretty ambitious set pieces, in No Way Home. Like near the middle, when Spider-Man steals the MacGuffin box from Doctor Strange, and they're like sent to the mirror dimension. That really is an interesting and memorable scene. It puts a smile on my face every time I see it because it's just like a really unique environment, to have a fight between heroes. At the end where they're fighting at the Statue of Liberty, just the way you can follow exactly what's happening and you can differentiate each Spider-Man from one another. I mean, that's truly an accomplishment. This is one of those scenes where they could have fucked up pretty badly, but they managed to make it work because they actually put the effort in. And my third defense for No Way Home is that nearly every legacy character in the film has some depth to him. I mean, except the Lizard. I'm not entirely sure what his deal was. I'm not too familiar with his character from The Amazing Spider-Man. I don't know. I think it was a little weird how he just stayed in the truck for a good portion of the end of Act 2. But either way, in terms of legacy characters, they could have just made like Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, Electro, and the rest of them just glorified cameos, but they actually felt like genuine continuations of their original characters. And that worked out extremely well for them because not only do you have well-developed villains, but you also give them a little bit of closure, in terms of their arcs from their original films. And my fourth and final defense for No Way Home is that Venom is in the movie. It doesn't seem like much since he's not in the movie for long, but as a fan of the new Venom movies, that made me very happy. I love Venom 2018. I love Let There Be Carnage, and funnily enough, I'd gone to see Let There Be Carnage before I'd seen No Way Home. So it was very cool to see that sort of Easter egg all unfold in action. Although I did end up rewatching No Way Home a couple of months after I saw it in theaters because I missed the first few minutes and I really don't remember my first viewing of the film all that well. But yeah, overall, man, I really do like No Way Home. I think it's a great film, and it's honestly surprising that people have turned on it so quick. Although I think that a large portion of it is just people baiting, trying to get I guess overstimulated Spider-Man community, just something to argue about because I guess we're already bitching and moaning about Across the Spider-Verse and horrible work conditions on that film, and just people need something to complain about. But No Way Home, I don't really think it deserves the hate it's been getting, whether it's actual hate or not, and I really do doubt that it's actual hate. But either way, I think that's basically all I have to say about No Way Home and why it's good and everything else bad. I've been your host, Jarvis Godden. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more Diecast content, and I will see you guys in the next one.